Before we begin, let me know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from right now? Especially if you've ever gone hiking off-grid. My throat was almost closed. I could barely breathe. My vision was going black. And then, a falcon landed just a few feet away, wearing a bell. And for some reason, it wanted me to follow it. We thought we were prepared. We weren't. My friend and I had picked southeastern New Mexico for a 10-mile hike through some remote backcountry neither of us had ever stepped foot in. We were looking for something different, something off-grid, away from the crowds, no marked paths, no friendly park rangers nearby. Just a map, a compass, a few supplies, and the two of us trying to feel like we'd earned something by the end of it. We had planned it for weeks. I packed light but smart, extra water, protein bars, a cheap first aid kit, some allergy meds I never thought I'd actually need. My friend did most of the route planning, but I insisted on tracking our path in and out, just in case. There was no cell service where we were headed, and that was half the point. The terrain out there wasn't what I expected. It wasn't just dry and rocky. It was jagged, harsh. There were steep ridges that dropped into sudden river valleys, patches of strange brush that looked like they hadn't been touched in years. The land felt old, in a way you can't quite put your finger on. Like it had been sitting there long before any of us ever showed up to mess with it. We didn't see a single person once we left the car. No hikers, no campers, nothing. Just us, the wind, and a trail that was more imagined than real. Even the birds were quiet once we got deeper in. We cracked a few jokes about it at first, how we must have picked the most boring spot in New Mexico. Still, the views were incredible. Climbing up to a ridge, you could see forever in every direction. Miles of empty land, scrub brush, and sandstone. And then we found this narrow path that led down into a river valley. It wasn't on the map, and we hadn't planned to descend, but we were curious. That was probably our first mistake. Looking back, there was a strange stillness about that valley. Not peaceful, just still. No wind, no bugs. Even the sound of our own footsteps seemed to get swallowed up once we were down there. It was like we had stepped into a place the world had forgotten. And that's where everything started to go wrong. We started down into the valley because it looked like the kind of place you'd only see if you wandered off the main trail. The descent wasn't steep at first, just a winding slope with loose rocks and narrow switchbacks, but as we got deeper, the air started to shift. It got heavier somehow. Like everything was holding its breath. At first, I thought it was just the drop in elevation, or maybe the thick scrub lining the path, but there was something strange about it. The temperature felt off. Cooler, but not refreshing. Damp, in a way that clung to your skin. The farther we went, the more it felt like we had stepped out of the New Mexico we knew and into someplace else entirely. Even the sounds changed. The wind had followed us all morning, whipping over the ridges, rattling through dry grass. But down there? Nothing. The birds that had chirped from the rocks earlier? Gone. Even the buzzing of flies or the occasional rustle in the brush just stopped. I kept noticing it, and the quiet wasn't calming. It was sharp, awkward, like we didn't belong. And then I brushed up against something. Some weird plant with jagged waxy leaves and this fine red powder along the stems. I didn't think anything of it, just kept moving, wiped my hand on my shirt. We were still on track, still following the natural curve of the valley. We figured it would open up to a stream at some point, maybe a good spot to rest before heading back out. But within 10 minutes, I felt the first itch. Just a tiny spot on my forearm. Then another. Then both arms. Then my neck. I looked down, and my skin was blotchy. Red. Raised. I didn't say anything at first. I've had rashes before. Figured it was something mild. Allergies, maybe. A reaction to the plant. I told myself it would pass. Then my throat started to feel thick. Like I was trying to breathe through a cotton ball shoved behind my tongue. My voice cracked when I tried to call out to my friend, and that's when I knew it wasn't something I could shrug off. I stopped walking, grabbed my pack, and ripped out the small bottle of Benadryl. Popped 2 tablets dry and forced myself to swallow. I didn't mention how hard it was to get them down. I could already feel the swelling, deep inside, like my own body was tightening around my windpipe. We turned around fast. Didn't even argue about it. No pictures. No exploring. Just get out. The climb was brutal. Every step back up that slope felt longer than it had coming down. The sun was hotter now, baking the rocks and making the air feel thinner. My shirt was drenched in sweat. I couldn't focus. My head was buzzing, not with sound, but with pressure, like something pushing from the inside. I started wheezing. Not loud at first, more like a dry click every time I tried to inhale deep. I knew what was coming, and the fear hit hard. I had never gone into anaphylaxis before, but I wasn't dumb. I knew the signs. And I knew if I passed out in that valley, there'd be no helicopter rescue. No paramedic racing down a trail. Just two guys in the middle of nowhere and one of them choking on nothing. I remember the sound of my own breathing more than anything else. Scratchy. Uneven. Then there were moments where I couldn't hear it at all, and that scared me more than anything. It was like someone had turned down the volume of the world and left me stuck inside my own head. My legs felt like they were moving through sand. I couldn't keep up. My friend kept checking on me, trying to talk, but his voice sounded far away, like he was underwater. My ears were ringing. My pulse was pounding so loud it felt like it was coming from inside my skull. I wanted to rest. Just for a minute. Sit on a rock. Close my eyes. Let the dizziness pass. But I knew if I stopped, I might not get up again. I remember reaching the top of the valley and thinking I might just drop right there. My legs were trembling, like the strength had drained out of them all at once. My throat felt like it had shrunk to the size of a pencil, every breath a short, wheezing pull. The light was strange, too bright, but also flickering in places. My eyes weren't working the way they should have been. Then I heard it. A flutter. Fast. Sharp. Followed by this light, metallic sound. A jingle. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. The sound was so out of place that it didn't even register as real. But I turned my head, slow and heavy like it was full of sand, and there it was. A falcon. Sitting on a branch just a few feet from us. Not moving, not calling out. Just watching. And around its neck, a small bell. That part stuck with me. That bell. It rang in a way that made no sense. We were in the middle of nowhere. There shouldn't have been a bird, let alone one wearing jewelry. I blinked hard and tried to focus. My friend saw it too. He even said something like, "What the hell?" But I could barely hear him. We kept moving. I didn't think about the bird again for a minute because all I could think about was how badly I needed air. Every step was work. Every breath, a fight. I was supposed to be leading us out, but my head was foggy. I was walking slower, thinking slower, and then I turned the wrong way. I didn't realize it at first. We were following a ridge, and I just veered right when we should have gone left. My friend asked if I was sure, and I remember snapping something back, even though I wasn't. I just didn't want to stop moving. Then I heard it again. The jingle. The falcon was back. This time on a different branch, right above the trail we had just passed. It flapped its wings once, just enough to draw our eyes, and perched again. Watching. Phil. Almost expectant. I swear it was waiting for me to notice. There was something about the way it moved. It didn't seem scared. Didn't act like other birds. It flew ahead just a little, then stopped. When we didn't follow fast enough, it flapped again, louder this time. Almost impatient. I don't know why I followed it. I didn't even think about it. My legs just started moving that way. My friend hesitated at first, but then he saw me go, and that was enough. The falcon kept moving, flying from tree to tree, but never far. It stayed just ahead, leading, and the strange thing, the trail started to look right, familiar. But I couldn't tell if we were actually moving faster or if my mind was slipping. Everything around me felt warped, bent, like the trees were making space for us. I know that sounds strange, but that's the feeling I had, like the forest wasn't getting in our way anymore. I tried to speak at one point, to say something about the bird, or maybe ask how far we had left, but my voice didn't come out. Just a dry croak and a cough that nearly dropped me to my knees. My vision was swimming. My fingers were numb. I couldn't even tell if my legs were working on their own or if I was just being pulled forward by momentum. But that falcon, it kept going. And we followed. Then, through the blur, I saw it. A flash of color that didn't belong. The glint of metal. The shape of the car. Our car. Parked exactly where we had left it, like a tiny beacon waiting at the edge of the world. And the falcon? Gone. Just like that. 1 second it was there, the next, nothing. No jingle. No wings. No sign. Like it had done its job and vanished. I collapsed into the passenger seat like a sack of bones. I couldn't even pull the door shut. My friend had to reach across and slam it closed while I fumbled with the seatbelt. My hands wouldn't work. My chest was tight. My ears were ringing so loud it felt like everything outside the car was gone. No wind. No gravel under the tires. Just that ringing, and my own rasping breath. My friend didn't waste a second. He slammed the car into gear and tore out of the lot like his own life depended on it. I could feel the speed in the way my head rocked back against the seat, but everything felt slowed down. Like watching a movie that was buffering. Trees whipped past us, but they didn't register as separate things anymore. Just streaks of green and brown, smudging into one another. And then, right before we made the first turn onto the highway, we both saw it. The Falcon. It circled once, wide and high over the trailhead. Its wings caught the sun just for a second, enough to flash that bell around its neck. That tiny sound, that little jingle, cut through the noise in my head like a thread. And then it turned, sharp and clean, and disappeared over the treetops. That was the last we saw of it. I don't know how long the drive took. I passed in and out. I remember the sky flashing through the window, and then the roof of the car, and then my friend yelling at someone to move. At one point, I heard the squeal of brakes. At another, the slam of a door. The rest is kind of gone. I do remember the clinic. Or maybe just pieces of it. A fluorescent light. Someone pulling at my shirt. The cold sting of something pressed into my thigh. A burst of sharp heat, like fire in my veins. And then, black. Nothing. Stillness, like I'd fallen into a hole that didn't echo. When I opened my eyes, there was quiet. Real quiet. But it didn't scare me anymore. I was alive. I knew that part first, before I even remembered the valley, or the climb, or the bird. I just knew I'd come back from somewhere that didn't want me leaving. Later, the doctor told me if we'd gotten there just a few minutes later, I probably wouldn't have made it. My airways had almost completely closed. He said it was lucky. That was the word he used. Lucky. I laid there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, letting it all settle. And somewhere, in the corner of my mind, I could still hear the bell. Faint. But there. I stayed in the clinic overnight. The swelling went down, slowly. Breathing became easier. But my mind. That took longer. I kept thinking about how fast everything had happened. How quickly a quiet hike had turned into something I still can't fully explain. The next morning, after I was cleared to leave, we made a quick stop at the ranger station. Just to ask. Just to see if anyone had reported a missing falcon. I even described the bell. Silver, small, not something that belonged in the wild. The ranger gave me a look that said he thought I was still a little out of it. He told us no one had reported anything like that. No licensed falconers in the region. No bird rescue groups nearby. No tags, no projects, nothing. Somebody had to own it. Falcons don't just wear bells for fun. But what are the odds it'd find us? Right then. In that place. With no signal, no traffic, no real trail markers? My friend laughed and called it a guardian angel. I laughed too, but only because I didn't know what else to do with the silence that came after. It's weird, the things your brain won't let go of. I didn't see a harness. I didn't see tags. Just a bell. And dark eyes that didn't blink the way you'd expect. They were fixed. Phil. Like they were watching more than just us. Like they were waiting for something. I don't think it was just some trained bird that wandered off. And I still wonder, was it helping us? Or was it just making sure we got out? That was 3 years ago. I haven't been back to New Mexico. But sometimes, if I hear a bell in the distance, I stop and look up. And if you've ever had something, or someone, show up at just the right moment, tell me in the comments. You might just be in the next story. Like and subscribe for more real horror. I post weekly.